Starting now?
Hello,
Hello.
this is the Zach and Jean podcast.
There's no originality.
One of one,
One of one.
the first and last. Alright,
Wait.
so this is Jean's experiment with podcasting on YouTube. Do you want to take us away, kick us off?
So we're gonna talk about the upsides and downsides of living in Australia.
Jean's going to talk about the upsides, I'm going to talk about the downsides. She's
What?
talking for much longer than she is.
Why don't we just talk about the upsides, both of us
Well, I
together?
have nothing positive to say about Australia, so maybe you should take that part of the podcast.
Should I put the mic when you talk?
Just hold it between us, there. That should do it.
I feel like I'm just kidding. Australia. When you first think of Australia, what image comes to your mind?
Flies. Swarms of flies.
Okay.
Swarms of people trying to get a rental. Lining up 50 people
We're
deep.
not even. No, we're not even at the
Just hoping
downside
that they have a
part
place
yet.
to sleep.
No, this is just the introduction.
What else? What else?
Is that the image?
That's the image that I get when I think of Australia.
That seems like a negative image.
Oh
already.
yeah.
Talk about our background. And like how many years did we live in Australia?
Well, we just lived in Australia for a year before we couldn't take it anymore. And then we came back to Southeast Asia.
Okay, and what made you decide to be in Australia? What year was it? Give me some.
I first visited
Give me more
Australia.
details.
I visited Australia in 2018, and it was a great place to visit
Yeah.
as a tourist.
Okay.
And I liked that it was nice. It seemed safe and secure. It had good weather, and it seemed like a place where I could convert my law degree and work and live a lifestyle similar to South Africa without the constant threat of dying that you have in South Africa. Then I went back in 2019 and studied there, and then I got kicked out because of COVID and spent the next 5 years trying to get back in. Eventually got back in and spent the last year working as a solicitor, and then decided that the work-life balance in Australia doesn't suit me because I feel like the social contract is broken down in Australia. You have employees.
No, we're still not talking about that. We're just.
Oh, we
talking
haven't gotten there yet. Okay,
Yeah,
so we're just
no,
talking
we're just
general.
talking about like the general background. Why did you decide to go to Australia?
Well, I was shopping the world for the best places
Yeah.
to live, and Australia seemed like a good option
Yeah. Okay.
to a young, naive Zach before he knows what I know today.
As was, what's the most Aussie thing you've ever experienced?
Probably spending half my income on rent. That's the most Aussie thing I've experienced.
Okay. Tell me about your first impressions about Australia. So what surprised you when you first arrived in Australia? Aside from the rental prices.
When I first went to Australia, I was a tourist, so I didn't have to deal with any
Yeah.
of the harsh realities of being a wage slave and keeping my landlord masters in luxury. So when I first arrived in Australia, I was very impressed. I thought it was a beautiful country with safe suburban and urban spaces. And what surprised me was probably the size of the country, because you don't realize before you visit that Australia is about the same size as the United States, with about 7% of the people. So its vast emptiness is astounding. And also, I like the cities. The cities seemed very orderly and clean, almost like Singapore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, did it feel like more of a holiday destination or a livable country when you first arrived?
Well, it seemed like a livable place because it's almost like the entire country has been designed by a health and safety committee, with everything is right in its place. Every lawn is cut with a millimeter of precision. There's 1,000 rules that have to be complied with for everything. There are safety barriers and police officers and strictly enforced rules. No one would dare cross the road when the little red man is showing. It's a culture of compliance. And coming from a chaotic, dangerous country like me, that was refreshing. You know, the whole place seemed very livable, almost like a giant suburb. Australia is like a safe giant suburb, which is inviting when you're coming out of kind of like a crazy, chaotic country like I was.
Let's go to the upsides. So, what are the upsides of living in Australia? Let's first go through the lifestyle.
Well, it's relatively safe. It's probably about as safe as you'll get in any developed country. It has good weather. It's very difficult to find a country that is A, functional, B, safe, and C, sunny. I think 90% of countries that have all those good things have terrible weather. So the countries that are safe, developed, and have good weather are probably Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore. I can't think of anything else. What else is good about it? Australians are very sporty. There's lots of opportunities to do outdoor activities.
Yeah.
If you're into things like hiking, there are lots of beautiful hikes.
I noticed that too.
What else? People speak English, so it's an easy adjustment if you come from the English-speaking world. The main draw card of Australia really is the weather. It's the only place you can go, the only developed country you can go to of a reasonable size, a reasonably strong economy that has decent weather. So that's the main upside.
What about the transportation?
Well, Australia is so big that the public transport can't really cater to most people. You have to either drive or fly. So I'd say the roads are reasonably good, but it's not very good on public transport.
And what about the quality of life? Oh, well, aside from where you get to go hike, easily exercise. Can you talk about the healthcare system in
Not really.
Australia?
I don't know much about it. I haven't had much experience with Australian healthcare.
Okay. And what about the educational system? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I studied at the University of Queensland. It seemed to have good standards.
Okay.
But I have negative feelings about Australian education, so I won't go deeply into it, other than to say that it does seem to have generally good standards at the top universities.
Give me a background about your working life in Australia before we go to the working opportunities there.
Well, I was attracted to Australia because you can work as a lawyer from a Commonwealth country if you convert to Australian law, which is a relatively not so complicated process because there are overlaps in the legal systems. So I spent maybe a year to 18 months getting qualified in Australia. That's one of the reasons I chose Australia. But generally, the upsides of the regular salary.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an upside.
Tell me or highlight the positives about the cultural vibe in Australia. Are people friendly there?
Well, we're still supposed to be saying nice things, aren't we?
Yeah, this is still the upsides.
This is a difficult one for me to answer because I don't think there are many upsides when it comes to the culture, and there's not much culture in Australia. It's a new country without much background, and most areas are empty and have nothing going on. So maybe it's good if you're looking for solitude and you don't want to have friends, because it's difficult to maintain relationships in Australia. Everyone is so obsessed with their own little patch of land. And so if you want to go somewhere where it's just you and your castle and living by yourself, then yeah, it's great. But if you want to maintain close relationships, it's not.
Okay. Now this is what you've been waiting for. You can talk a lot. Yeah. You don't have to filter whatever you want to say. Okay. Let's dive now to the downside of living in Australia. So let's talk about the cost of living first. So first of all is the rent.
Yeah, look, Australia is going through a rental crisis, a housing crisis.
Nowhere to sit.
It doesn't have enough desirable properties for the number of immigrants that are arriving. So there's a supply and demand issue, mostly a demand issue. And you have property prices going up much faster than wages. And this has been going year on year for decades. So the consequence is that if you already own property in Australia, you are good. You are doing well. If you don't, then you are the underclass, forming a new type of, in Australia, you're either a landlord, which is kind of like the landed gentry these days, or you're a renter, which means you're a peasant. And there's a two-tiered society that's emerged. Even the federal government has acknowledged this years ago and failed to change any of their policies. And it's becoming more and more extreme. You have Australians that are working full-time jobs that are homeless. You have wealthy foreigners buying up all the property and renting all the property, and people with nowhere to stay. So it's the Hunger Games. When you're trying to find a place to stay, Australian property has been transformed from a human right into an investment opportunity, and it's ruining society. It's filtering down to every other aspect of life in Australia. When property is too expensive, then every other service becomes too expensive because everybody pays rent or is servicing a mortgage. And as far as I'm concerned, it's destroying the country. And because politicians own land, they have no incentive to change the policies that have made them rich. So essentially it's greed. Australia is a good example of how greed plus capitalism leads to perverse incentives and masses of exploited and unhappy people. So we were talking about the cost of living. It's sky high. It's so expensive. You never want to go out. You never want to eat at a restaurant, and you spend half of your income on rent. If you got into the market at a good time and you purchased property early, you are now wealthy. Your wealth will continue to outpace the amount of money that people that work even higher paid jobs can earn. So people that own property are rewarded more than people that perform labor. And the tax burden is borne mostly by people that are performing labor, whereas those who own property benefit from capital gains and various other tax concessions and continue to become richer and richer. So the downsides is that this creates a kind of sense of helplessness, and that even if you work full-time in a highly paid job, your ability to save for the future becomes worse and worse the longer you stay, unless you get on the property ladder. And that seems to be the only way to create any kind of investment or safety for yourself in the future, is to buy property and to become part of kind of a Ponzi scheme. And it's a liquidity play in the country goes into property, which means it doesn't go into business. It's the reason that there are very few innovative tech startups or anything happening in Australia in terms of new companies. Everybody is obsessed with property price, and people are struggling. There's a lot of desperation because all the money is going to the landowners.
Okay. Thank you so much for answering those questions.
The deep dive into the pros and cons of living in Australia. We hope you found this exceedingly useful and that you will not move to Australia. We hope if this saves one
let
person,
them choose. Let them choose.
If this saves one person the hassle of going through the Australian immigration process only to discover at the end of the day that it was probably better where you were coming from.
I mostly have upsides about Australia. But there are some downsides. Maybe I'm just in denial about it.
You experienced the positives of Australia because you weren't stuck in the employee tax system.
Yes, true.
So we had vastly different experiences of it.
Yeah. So you guys can choose wherever you want to
Whatever
live.
you choose to do, good luck.
All the best. Bye. Thank you.
May the odds be in your favor.